there's a real happy balance between, aggression, between calmness, between precision.
As far as race drivers are concerned, they are very selfish.
I started karting when I was 16, which by today's standards is pretty old. I was one of these kids with obviously the pictures of cars on the walls and all that kind of stuff. And I went to Knockhill. God, it must have only been about 10 or something like that. And Steve Soper was there, Joe Winkelhoff. For me, that was the start of thinking, I want to do that. Somehow I want to try and mould my life into being on that grid.
You've got to put everything on the line, because if you don't, the next guy is going to. So they'll do anything it takes. Because we've all got very equal equipment, and it's just finding that very small edge to get one over on the others. And when your car's working well, you can move forward. When it isn't, you've just got to hang in there. It is frustrating, but if someone gets the nose in, you've just got to let them go, because you end up going to smash it out of your car, their car, and so sometimes, as you say, hindsight's a wonderful thing. There's a lot of gamesmanship. I'd classify it as rubbing. I think the TV probably picks up 10% of it.
Every lap out there in the race, they are on the edge. You need to be there if you want to be at the front.
You've got to roll with the punches, take the hits, and also you'll get people who will instigate the hits from in front, so they'll be braking early or brake testing you and then working with your teammate. And that's where Flash and I get on really well. We can work closely together and gang up on people.
It's nice to have that in the team, really, that you can rely on it.
The early parts of my career, it was always, would I make the next season? So it was trying to get the deal, get the sponsorship, find a car, get it to the track, not crash it too much, not cause too much damage. Would we have enough money to finish the season? And it was real hand to mouth. I can remember some seasons, weeks before the start of the season, when I wasn't racing. Very, very stressful over the years. Being with a top team like Honda Racing, it brings a different kind of stress, because as the older hand in it, you're meant to come up with the goods week in, week out, and I would say the line you tread between doing well and messing up like Alton Park is very, very narrow.
3 minutes, everybody, 3 minutes.
The drivers are fairly competitive. Either driver can win a race. There's no team orders. They do swap notes. But obviously at the end of the day they want to beat each other.
I think in a perfect world you'd come first and second in every qualifying session and race.
Touring cars historically has been wing mirror to wing mirror, bumper to bumper, and that's why it's exciting. That's why the crowd come to watch, and that's why people watch on TV. So I don't mind a little bit of rubbing. I don't particularly like getting attacked from 50 yards back and speared off into the gravel, but a little bit of door-to-door stuff is part and parcel of touring cars.
I'm driving above the limit of the car, above the limit of everything, just to stay with the stupid turbos. It's a joke. It's a joke. An absolute joke.
Thanks, Jason.
He's just fighting his corner. I almost think it's a harder pill for him to swallow, not being in the fastest car. All this stuff, I'm overdriving the car, that's why I'm having accidents. That's what we've been doing the last 4 or 5 years. It's a race, for God's sake. It's seldom that you're lucky to be the fastest, and one of the places you should always look is inwardly rather than to your equipment. I've always been quite self-critical of myself. I don't think that's a bad thing.
We do a lot of training just to try and keep yourself in the best physical shape. It's not about building big muscles, it's about endurance. We don't really have the G-forces like you get in Formula 1. What we do have is massive temperatures inside the car. So then when you've got your fireproof underwear, race suit, balaclava, helmet, gloves, it's the concentration to make sure that you're still focusing and performing at your optimum, even when when the heat literally is on.
My personal preparation for a race is eating properly, drinking properly, hydrating, because it gets very, very hot in the cars. We can be up to 55 degrees C. Then it's just following a simple routine. I always like to go and kiss my mum and my wife and my little girl before I go out, and shake hands in a certain order. I get dressed in a certain order. I'm pretty annoyingly superstitious.
Yeah, they obviously sit there getting very focused. Anything you can do to make sure they don't get rattled before it starts is obviously...
Possible scenarios of the opening lap. What could happen if we get a bad start, a good start. It all depends where you are on the grid, and looking for clear track and how you're going to get your tyres in properly, what curbs you're going to avoid on the opening laps. how hard you're going to push.
It's almost subconscious in a way. You're going to get yourself, into that kind of, that focus, that concentration, that zone. And when you're on song and everything's working well, it all tends to happen quite naturally. But you've got to try and focus. It's not like Formula 1 where you've just got one race a day. For us, we've got 3 races throughout a race weekend to contend with. I've had the ups, the downs, you'll be in the depths of depression and back up, and you get a little light at the end of the tunnel. But it's I guess the bad days make you appreciate the good days, and the good days are second to none.